Hey everybody, Josie here, and in this video I'm going to be talking about the newest Christopher Nolan movie, and that is Dunkirk. Now, when this movie was announced, I was pretty excited, and that's basically because I'm excited about anything Christopher Nolan does. I mean, just look up here, Dark Dark Knight. So yeah, so I'm a big fan. But I'm not like I didn't have any bias. If this movie was bad, I will tell you it's bad because that's just how I go. I'm a fan of Christopher Nolan, but I will call him out if I do not like his movies. Um, but it's safe to say that Dunkirk is a very good movie. In fact, I think it's a great movie. Um, and yeah, I mean, I guess it's the shortest movie review ever, right? The movie's great. There you go. Everybody go home. No, but what I really like about this movie is well, okay. So let me just give some backstory, I guess. Now when I found out this movie was a war film, it was pretty cool. And then later I found out it was gonna be PG-13, and that had me a little worried because um, that means they were gonna shy away from the violence. And oftentimes in these war movies, they kind of show you like the horrors of war and all that stuff. And I feel like you need a rated R for that to show all that stuff, or at least that's what I thought. Um, but then I started thinking that maybe it's gonna be more focused on the drama, and that's kind of what it was. It's not so much about the horrors of war, like you're not seeing people dismembered, but it is about the horror of war, but about a different aspect of it because war is very complicated. You know, it's not just bodies and things. There's also the psychological aspect of it, and that's more in line of what's happening here. Because essentially you have these soldiers who are stuck in this island and they can't leave, and they know the enemies like surrounding them, and they know that the only way to leave is, you know, to cross the ocean because they're not that far from like home, but they can't leave. There's no one's coming for them, and it kind of messes with them, and it's pretty cool. And that's kind of what its focus is on, you know, the psychological stuff of these soldiers. The movie, it follows three different storylines. That are interconnected, and it follows the soldiers, a group of soldiers on the beach, and then it follows this sailor who who's crossing the ocean to pick up any soldiers that need help, and then it's following Tom Hardy's character who is a pilot. And you see clips of all three of these storylines in the trailer, so it's not like I'm spoiling it for you guys if you haven't seen it. Um, but one thing I think I should mention is that I'm sorry guys. One thing I should mention is that uh, while they show the movie jumps between the three different storylines, it's important to note that not all of them span have the timeline is a little confusing or it might be confusing at the beginning. And that's because the storyline that follows the soldier's perspective, that takes a course of about a week. It tells you in the beginning that it's a week. The storyline about the sailor who's crossing to pick up the guys, that takes place during a whole day, and it tells you, like I said in the beginning. And then Tom Hardy takes place throughout a whole hour. Um, but the movie jumps between all three storylines. So sometimes it seems a bit jarring because it may be nighttime in the soldiers' storyline, but it's obviously day in the sailors and all that stuff. So it can get confusing, but once you get used to it, it makes sense. And what I like about shooting it this way with the three different storylines is that there's always something going on. And so you're following the soldiers, and then it'll shift to the sailors, and then they're having their own problems, and the pilots having their own problems. And I think that's amazing. I think that's great movie telling, storytelling, and it works very well. I I saw this in IMAX, and honestly, I think this is the best way to watch it, just because um the cinematography here is it's breathtaking. Like at moments, pretty much you could pause this anywhere, and you would have an amazing looking amazing looking scene. And then the scenes with the fighter pilots, I think some of the most amazing stuff I've seen in a long time. And the thing about it that makes it so cool is that it's very minimalistic. Because we're used to watching these extravagant dogfights with planes doing flips and barrel rolls and all this like fancy maneuvers. But Christopher Nolan, he refrained from doing all that, and he made it more believable, and it's very more methodical and way slower than what you'd expect a dogfight to be, because it's all about lining up your shots and then trying to avoid the enemy from getting a shot on you and all this stuff. And the way they shoot it is like it's very tense because you're like on the edge of your seat all the time. You don't know what's gonna happen, and I think that was great. And the fact that everything's practical, they're real. Those are real planes flying, is amazing, and it just shows you how a dedicated filmmaker Christopher Nolan is. Now it may sound like I'm kissing this movie's ass, but I will say it's not even so. It's not completely perfect. I think what was lacking for me is any real connection to any of these characters. Because honestly, they're all pretty faceless. I mean, you get used to seeing the soldiers, and you know who they are and the ones you're following. Uh, but you don't know anything about them, like at all. You just see them, and they're doing this mission, and that's it. You don't learn anything about their background. You don't know what they did before the war and all that stuff. You just in the moment. And that's both a good thing and a bad thing. I think it's cool because um even that way, it feels like you are watching some strangers, but they still don't feel fake. They do feel like real human characters, because um you feel like they wouldn't be talking about their about home at this exact moment. So I think if this movie would have stopped and these characters would have stopped and then talk about their families at home, I think that would have felt uh fake and not genuine. But the way what they do is they're just silent most of the time because there's a bunch of stuff going on. You're not gonna sit down and talk to anyone. You just want to get the hell out of there. So I found that really cool. But like I said, some people might find it hard to connect to any of these characters. I personally did not connect to anyone. Um, but even then, that did not change my feeling towards this movie, and it didn't affect me all that much. So when the movie was over, I mean, my mind was blown, and I think it's a great movie. It's brilliant, like I said, breathtaking, um, and it's very short. When it was over, and I was satisfied. It didn't overstay its welcome. It had the story it wanted to tell. It told it, and then it was out of there. So I highly recommend this movie to anyone. And yeah, if you guys have seen it, let me know what you guys thought, and thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.